But as far as like music wise, I need my kind of baseline is to see a ID vault or a whip a comprehensive whip list of tracks that are ready to be pitched to demos or pitched to labels or ready to come out with a volume of like 10 to 15. That's what I'd like to see at this point. Um, Ultimately, all goes back to like we want to be before anything moves forward on a management front. We need to be confident that this project is at a place where it could be self-sustaining with where it's at for a year of operating. And that goes to the branding, that goes to the marketing, that goes to the volume of tracks that are ready to go, goes to the workflow of how long is it taking you to bust out a track. Comprehensively, what do all those things look like? What are your goals for your project? What is your work life and recreational balance? Are your parents, is your family supportive of this? What is your dynamic? Is this a healthy thing for you to be pursuing? Are you in a good mental place to commit time to this? Are you getting pushback for doing this?
Hey guys, welcome to Electronic Dance Money, your number one business resource for making money as electronic musicians and producers. All right, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to a brand new episode of Electronic Dance Money, and this is going to be a fun episode. I've actually been waiting for this episode to happen since ILFest in September when we first chatted, but we finally got something scheduled, something together. I'm here with Justin Benedict. How are you doing, buddy?
Doing great, brother. Thanks for having me on.
Of
What's up,
course.
guys?
And you own Veridian Management, which is local to Austin, Texas, but you're also now a new owner, part owner in not Disco Donnie,
Kingdom Nightclub. I'm one of the owners.
Kingdom.
I definitely stay busier than I would like to, but all good things. I'm also one of the talent buyers and director of operations for Mark My Words. We're one of the biggest independent promoters in Central Texas. I'm one of the owners of Kingdom Nightclub, which I think this is our 4th month open, and it's doing great. I think it's one of the best 600 cap rooms in the state. So definitely check it out if you get the chance to. And then kind of my passion project of the last 2 years, I'm the owner of Veridian Management, which is a local artist management company based out of Austin.
Yeah, and dude, Kingdom, the new Kingdom, because I went to the old Kingdom all the fucking time. My family, specifically my dad, super into like tech house, minimal house shit. That's all he fucking listens.
Your dad went to Kingdom? You took him to the show?
Yeah, I took him to Kingdom. My parents actually flew out just to see Mark Knight, and this was in May of 2018, like the second week. And I've never been a big like tech house, techno house person. That's never been like my forte. I've always loved progressive house and like the cliche mainstream house music, but so I didn't really know who Mark Knight was. My dad was like, just fucking wait. Like, this is going to be fucking crazy. And especially in Kingdom, like my dad's known about Kingdom forever. He's always wanted to go there. I moved here in 2016. And so I think since I moved there, he was like looking at venues and he's like, dude, Kingdom's the fucking shit. I want to go there. And so Mark Knight was coming to town. He's like, we're fucking making a trip out of it. My mom and him came down. They spent like a week with us or something. We went and saw Mark Knight. That was fucking crazy. And that was in the old Kingdom where it's just, I mean, like 400
I've never
people.
been in such a small room where there's absolutely no problem. I go to like Stubbs and I'm getting, nasty looks if I try to move at all. And then you could go to Kingdom on a Friday night and just, it's a 300 cap room and you just migrate to the front. I'd just straight up put my phone on the booth and record some great acts, And they're right there and nobody, there's room. It just had such a special underground, European industrial type of vibe that was really sick. And I feel like we've done a good job of replicating that and adding to it in the new room. So I think it's definitely something special. It's funny that I also, just a little side note here, because I resonate with you bringing your dad to the club. my parents are super supportive of me diving into the music industry life, and they come here a couple times a year, and I've brought them to Vulcan Gas Company for Funk Case and like shows that they have absolutely no interest in. You know, my dad loves trance, like Above and Beyond and stuff like that is something that we really connect on. But it's funny that just seeing them at a dubstep show and the amount of tequila my dad has to drink to get through that is a feat in itself. So that is
I actually funny enough you mentioned that. It's the same way with my dad. It's like the bass music and it's even like the trance stuff. He's like he doesn't like trance, but he likes, you know, Sasha is one of his favorite fucking artists. John Digweed loves them. So I think my mom and him flew to Colorado. I'm from Boise, Idaho. That's where they live. But
that's a great city. Actually.
Great city.
Idaho is slept on as a state. It's fucking beautiful,
dude. Idaho, especially North Idaho,
Sioux Falls,
it is beautiful. Some of the best camping. That's the one thing I miss about Idaho. And my fiance Marty's from Seattle. She's from the Pacific, so it's the same thing. Like I
love Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, the camping and stuff is the one thing we miss. We go camping here, but it's just not the same. Yep. So, but they flew to Colorado. I think it was in like July to go see Sasha and Digweed in Denver. I can't remember the venue they went to, but it was like, I mean, like a 12-hour show. They played for like 6 fucking days.
You need a diaper to be playing that long. That's still a mystery that I ask people and I've never gotten a good answer. How are they holding it that long?
I have you gotta like maybe dehydrate yourself before, but then you're also like dancing. So it makes no sense. Yeah. But that
I've yet to see that on a rider, like urination spittoon on underneath. You know, I'll let you know when I do. Yes,
dude. Someone wrote on their rider, "I need piss jugs." That's fucking, at that point, it's like, maybe just get some Depends. Let's fucking skip the piss jugs next to the CDJs and all the thousands of dollars worth of gear. But I am really excited to see this because the last 10 years of producers that have been coming up are awesome. I love seeing it. Like the amount of people that are able to produce now and pick it up as a hobby. And what I'm really excited about is seeing the next generation of people grow up with electronic music. Cause I feel like it was a very small percentage of people that grew up in the 90s and maybe the early 2000s that may have grown up, you know, they were in their late teens into their 20s into electronic music and kept listening to it though, because it was kind of a fad and people went to like underground raves in the 90s, but they didn't
much more niche.
Yeah, they didn't keep up with it the way that a lot of kids are now, where it's like it's become a lifestyle. So I'm really excited to see the next generation of kids that are grown up on electronic music rather than, 90s grunge bands or hair metal bands from the 80s, which is a lot of what the generation now grew up on. So I'm interested because, I think you and I are probably pretty rare where it's like, oh yeah, our parents are into electronic music. Yeah, my dad that's all he listens to is that. Well, they also love Tool. So it's like either Tool or
good taste. Huh?
Yeah, very good taste. That's where I get it from. But it runs in the family because my dad was telling me, he's like, yeah, when I was your age, I was like the dude that had the new music, that knew the music. Yeah. Everyone would come to me with music choices. So it's like, there is a music gene, I think, and it goes through. But yeah, it's interesting because I think like having parents that were so passionate about my passions and pushed me to like dive deep into it. I think that's the reason why I'm able to do shit like that, like fucking record a podcast in my home studio.
Full circle, man.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome. And my kids are gonna grow up with the same environment, but a deeper environment for love of music. Like my kids are gonna grow up seeing me write music and mix music, and my parents did everything they could to make sure that I was able to get the opportunities that I could and grow in this passion that I have. And I'm really excited to not necessarily push it on my kid, but
lay up the opportunities. Yeah. Ultimately, I think as a good parent, you don't force anything, but you want to test the waters with as many things as you can and lay up as many good opportunities for them to pursue those things as you possibly can. So yeah, I think that, I played I grew up in a very musical house. My dad played piano and the flute, strangely, but I played trumpet for 7 years. I picked up guitar. It was always part of my life. I was listening to music all day, every day. I was a kid in school with my earbuds in, like, shut, I don't want to talk to you. I just want to listen to my music. So it's definitely been a huge part of my life, and I think I agree that we're at a unique time where EDM music is a staple and much more ingrained in the culture of the youth to where it wasn't really before. I do think that, and kudos to people like Marshmello, say what you want, take it or leave it, but making that something that is just introducing kids to EDM music much earlier on, it really opens a door for, we don't know. Ultimately, it gives us a greater opportunity as a culture and society for it to evolve and expand and hopefully become better. But I hope kids still listen to the Tool and Pink Floyd and to the Police, because I think ultimately we're also at a point where a lot of EDM music has become muddled and kind of lost it's become
its spark,
the
uniqueness.
Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of been
there's not many Neros. There's not many glitch mobs.
We're talking. Yeah, you're talking about rhythm or tear out or whatever it might be. It's all kind of blending together, and it's losing some of its distinctness. And I think integrating or reintegrating people listening, kids continuing to listen to some of the more classical genres and taking some of those elements from those and putting them into the EDM music, it will be ultimately what can give subgenres of EDM a new spark and help us diversify and evolve as EDM music. So hopefully that continues, and it's just a beautiful blend of all those elements.
Yeah, I agree totally. You want to talk about? I've got a guy that he's based out of Oregon, but I'll have to send you his shit, dude. He's a buddy of mine. His name is Rip Kenny. He goes by Rip Kenny. Just released his first album. He comes from the school of like Il Gates and the Producer Dojo, and he's good friends with Dylan and all that.
Nice.
The dude his fucking album he just released called Escapism. He released it in August. Just released it. He spent like over a year. I had him on the podcast, which I'll send you that podcast episode as well to check out. But he spent like 2 or 3 years writing the album. I think 2 years, and then he spent a year creating essentially a film for the album. And he's on a different level from your average producer. Like he's making fucking art. Like you listen to his music and it takes you somewhere.
Audio, visual, complete package.
Dude, it is unfucking believable what he's been able to do. And he was holding out on releasing this like film that he did for it for a while, and essentially loves the outdoors, grew up on motocross, snowmobiling, all just outdoor shit, camping, all that. And so he wanted to bring those elements to the album, and he spent a year recording just the visuals of him dirt biking in like the desert, walking around in the forest, snowmobiling.
This is his entire life in the album.
It's his
essence, his
80s. And he pulled it together, and he did all of the work on the video too, which is why I'm shocked by it. But I think he went full time with music like a year ago or something. And so he had a bunch of time to actually work on this, and the visuals he did for the story is just it's unfucking believable. I'm gonna send it to you. You'll have to listen to the album on your way home, because he's one of those people where I'm talking like glitch mob level, where it's so original you can't necessarily tie it to any one person except for himself. His sound design is out of this world, but those people are far and few between, which, I don't know if sometimes it feels like it makes those people and that music that much sweeter. They stand out from the rest, but I agree. I would love to see more people that are more individualistic, but even going to your point where like Marshmello, his music is pretty damn original, I would say, but more so his branding is very unique and very different. And I full-heartedly agree with you where it's, because I'm sure there's people listening to this that are like, fuck Marshmello, he fucking sucks. But you have a really good point where he is introducing people to electronic music that may not otherwise have been introduced to it and had something call out to them where they really enjoy that. And I mean, when I started listening to electronic music, got deep into it, I was like, Tiesto's the shit, Hardwell's the shit,
Mhm.
and like 2013,
Big room
2012,
stuff.
yeah, big room stuff. And that's not at all who I am anymore. Like, I don't really enjoy that music as much as I did.
They got the
And
ball rolling
it
for you.
got the ball, and that's the fucking
Yeah,
point.
that's
Is like,
I don't care if you're, if you're 12 and you got a marshmallow blanket from Target, and now you could be the next Pretty Lights, and it'd be a damn shame if you hadn't grabbed that marshmallow blanket. I'll tell you what.
or it could also be that that person just becomes a fan that evolves over time, and they end up, maybe they didn't start off listening to fucking Rhythm, but eventually they're going to get there. And if you produce Rhythm, they could potentially become your fan. So it's like,
Yep.
you shouldn't knock those big mainstream acts, because the amount of people and the amount of eyes that they're pulling onto just the scene in general is eventually going to benefit you. Not everyone that's listening to Marshmello is going to end up loving Rhythm, but there is a percentage of those people that are going to end up
Sure, yeah,
loving it.
yep.
And those people are going to be the ones that will buy your tickets to your shows, buy your merch,
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
you don't know if they would have gotten involved in electronic music and loved it as much as they did.
More people involved, more money in the industry, more value. I don't care if it's Marshmallow or whatever. We need a gateway. We need more gateway artists.
Yeah, 100%. So that was a great intro, but we're
Oh.
gonna intro it times two.
All right,
I
all right.
love it. Let's go back a little bit and go ahead and get up a little closer on the
Gotcha.
mic. Yeah, you're good.
Good.
But let's take it back a little bit. Tell us about your story. How did you get involved in electronic music? Go as far back as you want, and then how did you get to where you're at, where you're part owner in a club, and you're also, I mean, I'd say you're the owner of the biggest management company in Central Texas. So
Thank you.
let's jump into that.
Sure. It's been an interesting journey. I'm from Buffalo, New York originally. Raised by two psychologists, only child. I moved to Texas for college. I went to TCU. Go Frogs! I'm headed to the Fiesta Bowl in a couple weeks here to watch them stomp Michigan. So that'll be fun. Um, After graduating from college, the first EDM. I'll go back briefly. The first EDM show. Coming from Buffalo, EDM is not a huge presence there. I grew up on jam bands,
Yeah.
Grateful Dead cover bands, Mo,
Yeah.
Humphreys, McGee, Aqueous, all that stuff. So EDM initially wasn't a huge part of my life, but live concerts were. I was going out to shows all the time. Went to the first EDM show I went to was Rusko at Town Ballroom in 2012 or 13, and was thoroughly blown away. It was like prime Rusko, pre-cancer Rusko. He broke the decks. He was pulling Grey Goose, just like so. The stage presence was absurd. It was just so rowdy and fun.
Was he on tour during that time? Because
it was a tour. It was a tour.
I think he ran through Boise. I'm pretty sure I went to that.
Yeah,
show,
it was a full U.S. tour.
I think he ran through Boise at the Knitting Factory, and either the Knitting Factory or Revolution Center, and I mean, that was the height of like when I was just getting into it as well. So I probably went to the exact same
badass,
shit.
brother. Hell yeah. So that was a lot of fun. And that kind of put EDM on the map for me. And then I moved to Texas for college. I've found that in life to progress yourself as an individual, to get outside of your box and your comfort zone and to force yourself outside of those situations has been incredibly beneficial for me. So going to a Texas university that no one from my town had ever gone to, and just getting outside. I was getting in a lot of trouble in high school, so like, I'm gonna definitely end up in jail if I stay in Buffalo, New York. So let's get outside of there. So it ended up being a great experience to move to Texas for college. Went to TCU, got a bachelor's degree in advertising and a business minor. Around that time, I started going to festivals. My first EDM festival or multi-genre festival was Electric Forest 2013. And that kind of changed my life. I was like, whatever facet I can be involved in doing this type of thing, like I am 100% committed to that. So during my time at TCU, I got involved in promoting Euphoria, and I was the street team lead for the TCU branch of the Euphoria Music Festival street team, which was a very amazing small boutique festival in Austin. So that was kind of my first introduction to Austin at that time. And that was such a great festival. Graduated from TCU, spent that summer and a little more, about 3 months. I drove from Fort Worth. First, I drove from Fort Worth to Michigan for Forest, drove back, and then drove to San Diego and spent my summer driving up the West Coast, taking some job interviews, staying with some friends. Also, just I kind of had like a idealist like notion that I could be kind of like a hitchhike type, like into the wild type situation. There was a lot of things going through my mind that I thought that trip might accomplish for me, and it turns out 2018 you cannot just like hitchhike or like camp on the side of the road. It doesn't really work that way. A lot of nights woken up by police like, no sir, like you can't do this by the beach right now. But that was an incredible experience. I got up to spent that summer, traveled up to Seattle, went to the Pretty Lights Episodic Festival at the Gorge. Had some buddies meet me there.
How about the Gorge?
Oh man, it's still my top venue in the country.
My first major festival was Paradiso, and it was still going on.
One. Yeah.
2014, I think it was. Yeah,
those lineups were insane. And I would take over the bass canon. I would take the multi-genre, the mixed genre. Just
Paradiso, dude,
amazing.
Paradiso, the peak of Paradiso. I went Paradiso 2014, 2015, 2016.
Nice.
And then I can't remember if they did 2017 or if it ended after that, because there is a lot of sketchy shit going on with USC and Foundation and Seattle is a whole I've got buddies.
I can't remember exactly which year, but you're absolutely right. It was around that.
But Paradiso was like nothing. I mean, that the first time I saw Above and Beyond was 2014 at Paradiso in the Gorge, before they started doing group therapy at the Gorge, and I cried. It was the most beautiful fucking thing I had ever seen, and that really, because I'd been writing music at that point, DJing for probably close to 3 years at that point, and going to Paradiso, that solidified it for me, where I was like, this is it. This is what I'm going to be in for the rest. It's the same thing like you going to Electric Forest, where it's like, how is it? Why can't this should be how everything is? Yeah, everything should be this great. People should feel this good. It was an incredible experience. So at that point, I was like, this is why I'm in. But the Gorge is just, if you can go to any music festival at the Gorge. Actually, so funny enough, my fiance and I, Marty, we met in Austin in 2017. I had moved in 2016 in July. She had moved here in September and July. But we both went to Paradiso in 2015. And before I moved to Austin, I was about to move to Seattle, where she's from. So it's like we crossed, and I was working in Seattle.
How could obviously this makes sense? I know you're dope. I know you're dope.
Yeah. So we probably fucking saw each other at Paradiso.
She saw you crying. She saw you crying. For future reference, if you ever want to hold hands and cry, any A and B set, you got my number. So.
Yeah, for real, dude. It's unbelievable. They're incredible. So, the Gorge though. Keep going. You went to the Gorge.
That was a this was post college. What am I going to do what's the next step? And I was hoping that I didn't get a good enough job offer in Portland or Pacific Northwest or San Diego to make it worth the traversing from Texas and uprooting my life really. But I knew in the back pocket that Austin is very similar to Portland, same vibe, and really the only place in Texas, urban place in Texas with natural beauty and a great music scene. So shortly after I returned from that trip, Austin was the move for me. I moved down here, and funny enough, I've been on 2 Tinder dates in my entire life, and the second one was shortly after I moved here. And she referred me to Mark My Words. Well, at the time was Good Vibes Presents, which is now Mark My Words, one of the promoter that I'm the director of operations and one of the talent buyers for. And just started flyering outside of the clubs. Actually, initially was I moved here right in the last 3 months of Kingdom, the old Kingdom.
Yeah.
So I was out there ripping cigs and slinging flyers. Just stoked to be in a city with I just come from Fort Worth, where the only shows I was going to catch was a frat Waka
Yeah.
Flocka party or something. So I was just stoked to be somewhere where there was great music at my fingertips every weekend, and I was smiling out there, cheek to cheek, slinging flyers outside of Kingdom. It was great, and it just kind of progressed from there. I had people left the promoter, and my basic policy throughout my professional life in general has been just work harder than it doesn't matter if you're naturally the best at something, but I will never. When I leave the room, there will never be a question of who hustled harder. So that policy kind of carried over into that, and I just busted ass really. And as soon as people parted ways with the company, I was like, well, I will do it better than they did.
Yeah.
So I kind of moved up from there. Started doing graphic design and started taking over operations for Good Vibes as it was transitioning into Mark My Words. And shortly after that, I had a DJ that I was booking at Vulcan Nightclub, or Vulcan Gas Company, sorry, asked me if I'd ever considered management, which I never had, nor thought that anyone would want me to be their manager. But I was like, I'm testing the waters with I'm open to anything if it makes sense, and you don't know what you're naturally good at until you give it a shot. So I did that, and turns out I wasn't half bad at it. Also, props to a big part of management is being a mentor, and there's a big difference between being a day-to-day manager and being a agent. And managers are much more on the day-to-day interaction and being a mentor and a coach, and a friend for somebody. And turns out being raised by two psychologists and just being in tune with myself and how to help people through tough situations is incredibly beneficial for that. So shout out mom and dad. But it ended up going well, and expanded from there. Dabbled with doing some events just for Veridian, some showcases, and people were picking up what I was putting down, and expanded the roster, and that's kind of what led to getting here.
When did you start Veridian?
2 years ago.
2020. Damn, right? Probably the worst time to start.
Yep, the first Veridian showcase was South by Southwest. It wasn't official, so it was Austin Music Week at Scratch House, R.I.P. Scratch House.
Yeah.
And it was the day we actually had the Statesman, the photographer for the Statesman, show up at our showcase. And I'd never thrown an event by myself, or anything like this. I wasn't expecting. It was just like an opportunity to get, let's see what happens. And the Statesman photographer shows up, and he's like, "Hey, can I shoot your event?" I'm like, "Sure. Do you want to shoot my event?" He's like, "You guys are the only event. Everything is there's a pandemic now." So it got crazy really fast. And there's actually I don't know if you're familiar, but there's this Jewish rapper that currently lives in New York, Kosha Dills, and he's kind of like he was on Wild and Out this past season, and he was in town for South by, and it got canceled because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
But he showed up the morning while we're setting up for that showcase, and he's like, "Hey, like, you guys are the only event now. Can I play?" We put him on for like a 15-minute slot for him to rap, and now he's getting millions of views, and he's on Wild and Out, and I'm just, holy shit, man. Like, you never know. You never know what the hell is going.
This is what I tell people day in and fucking day out, and why it's like, well, here's my issue is always like, my issue with the industry is, one, if you're full of shit, get the fuck out. Like, your people are gonna smell your bullshit from a mile away. Second is also my issue where I when I find people who think they're hotter than shit, their shit don't stink, and there's plenty of those fucking people, and they don't give the time of day for anyone. Even when they act like they don't have enough time, but in reality, they just don't give a shit about enough.
And that could be the one person that.
Well, that's the thing is, like, these people who have giant egos who will, they won't give someone the time of day because they're below them, because they're younger than them, because they haven't been involved they don't have a following or whatever. Well, I mean, there's anyways, my point being is that those kinds of people drive me fucking crazy because we're all here together. No one's taking anything from anyone because you're helping someone or supporting them. And have you ever heard the book The Go-Giver?
No.
I fucking talked about the book on probably 60,
this is the first time we've
60 of these fucking episodes.
So I should get it.
You should check it out.
Okay.
I actually, I may have lent my copy to someone. If I have a copy, I'll
Will you text me or send?
I'll give me your address. I'll fucking send it. I will send you a fucking
We'll
copy.
do a book for a jersey.
Yeah,
trade.
you're
there we go.
Jersey. Yeah, I appreciate you texting me. You texted me that you're like, hey, what's your jersey size? And I didn't see it until like 20 minutes later because I'm setting everything up. I was like, oh fuck, and then you're probably
I'll
on
get
your
it
way.
to you. I'll get it.
No worries. But the book is fucking fantastic, and it's a business parable. And my fiance Marty, she's not super into business. Like she has a little side hustle. It's more of a hobby. She makes polymer clay earrings, and she fucking loves it. And I support her full-heartedly.
Does she have an Etsy?
Yeah, she does have an Etsy.
All right, there you go.
Yeah, I think it's handmade by Marty.
Send that to me too.
Of course. Yeah, Marti. Every other word is spelt normal, but handmade by Marty is her little business name, and she's fucking fantastic at it. But even before she started doing that stuff, I got this book referred to me by my other business mentors and my business coaches, and so I grabbed it. It's like 140 pages, short little business parable.
Readable for me. I can do that.
It's great. Do that. And even if you don't like reading, great audiobook. So I picked it up, I checked it out, I read it, and I was like, I read it in a day or two. I was like, I couldn't put it down as soon as I started. I was like, this is fucking fantastic. And I told my fiance, I was like, check it out, because it's much more than just a business book. My entire business philosophy is built around the Go-Giver. But now it's a part of my life. It's a lifestyle now. It's a part of my personality and who I am. But the whole idea of the Go-Giver is that you give and help others without any expectation in return. That's the best summary that you can give to it. And this business parable, it puts it into the world of business, and you really do get this karma-like effect. When you help someone out just because, maybe they have a question, maybe they need some answers to something, maybe they just need some help with something, and you have 10 minutes to spare where you can provide that value to them. What that does for the individual that's receiving that type of value is immense. And someone, I can tie this to someone who I don't think has read the book, but lives by the philosophy. And someone you manage is Noah Neiman, who is one of my best friends. So do you know our story?
I don't know y'all's personal story, but I love Noah.
Noah is the fucking man. He's been on the podcast before, so everyone listening, if you've listened to that episode, knows who Noah is. But I've talked about him day in and day out on this podcast. When I first moved to Austin, I think it was 2016, Tritonal was going on their painting. I think no,
he was on it. Was he on that?
He was on that tour.
Right.
I don't think it was Painting with Dreams, but maybe it is. I have a Painting with Dreams signed vinyl that I got we actually won through a competition. But maybe it was that tour. I can't remember. It was 2016. They were playing in Austin, and that was the first time I saw Noah, and I was like, "Holy fuck, Noah's the man." And I just shot him.
Are you upset that he's been converted to
dubstep? I helped him convert.
That's you?
I came up with
this.
Sir. Dude, I came up with his name, Dr. Neiman.
Holy shit!
I'll tell you about that.
He's maybe intentionally neglects to relay that part of the.
Hey, it's fine. That's fine. It's his shit. It's his baby. I am barely any part of what he's done. He's the fucking man. But I shot him a message after I saw him, and I was like, "Hey, I just moved to Austin. I'm a producer. Like, I'm actually working on this remix for Brooklyn with, I can't remember who the vocalist was. I think the track was Can't Trust Me or something like that. So long ago. I was like, I'd love some feedback. I actually sent him a friend request first, and he accepted my friend request that night. I was like, this is unheard of. Like, I've never experienced this. And I shot him a message, and he's like, yeah, send over a track if you want. And so I sent him over the track, gave me feedback, and then we started chatting, and then he started posting about World of Warcraft. I loved World of Warcraft.
The stars are aligning right now.
Yes. So, and you know, I've talked about this. Like, if you want to connect with someone, find a mutual interest outside of music that you both can nerd out on, and that's how you become good friends. And that's what I attribute our friendship through. Was we started talking about video games, World of Warcraft, and Destiny, and then we're both into working out. And so in I think it was 2019. Him and I, or maybe it was even towards the end of 2018. It was towards the end of 2018. He was posting his gym shit, and I was like, "Oh, you're working out? Where do you work out?" Gold's at Cedar Park. And I was like, "I work across the street from that. I'm trying to get a gym partner." He's like, "Let's fucking work out." And then from that day on, for like a year and a half until COVID hit, we were working out with each other for like 4 or 5 days a week. Nice. Like every fucking day, hitting the gym together, chatting. And that's when he was talking about, like, I've been writing dubstep, or I've been playing dubstep. I think I want to get into dubstep. I was like, do it, dude. You should just fucking do it. Like, you know, fuck the bass.
Why are you waiting for me to give you? Go do it if you're thinking about it. Do it, man.
Fuck the progressive house stuff. Fuck the future bass stuff. It's all great. You write great music. Get into fucking dubstep. And he's like, what should I? And that's what I was like, you should go with Dr. Neiman. Like, there's already like, you know, Dr. P and shit. DOCTOR. You are a doctor, so it resonates. But like, I was like, go with Doc. And so
you've done your service. It doesn't matter how big or small that contribution is. And ultimately, a lot of these big, like, connecting with someone, and I encourage all my clients to do the same thing if they feel isolated from whatever subgenre they're working in, and to be able to connect with their peers, other producers in that sphere. You don't need to come at it from a perspective of, you know, I want to be able to collab with you, whatever. Like, ultimately, we're all just looking to connect with someone on any level. And oftentimes when your whole life is being submerged in producing what you're doing, it's often a relief for producers to be able to connect with someone on something like World of Warcraft or working out or whatever it might be. That's ultimately might give them way more value than you approaching the conversation from give me some feedback or you know, but it's incredibly valuable for a lot of these guys to and more effective to connect with people on a people level of what are your hobbies outside of this, and you know.
There's a lot of value, and this is why I've talked about so many times. Like, truly, if you want to connect with someone that you're interested in being connected with, this episode is unofficially sponsored by White Claw and also Pint House Electric Jellyfish. But yeah, like, if you
be a human.
Yeah, be a fucking human. Like, don't. Here's the, you know, I talk about too when you're like meeting your idols. Like, if there's an artist that you love and you're like, oh fuck, I have the chance to meet them. Do not fucking fangirl out. Like, that is the worst thing you could possibly do. Is be like, I fucking love everything you do. You're like, because they're hearing that day in, day out, and
there's no substance there.
No. They shit just the same as you. Like, they are a normal human fucking being, and they're also, like you said, looking for some sort of connection with their fans or not. And if you can be the cool, calm, collected dude who can come out and just be a fucking human being and find an interest that you both find valuable, that's where you're going to establish those relationships. And that's what it's all built on. Literally, I got a message from Noah, I think today, where he's like, dude, you gotta get the new fucking World of Warcraft expansion. Literally today, I told him I wasn't getting it because I don't have enough time.
Well, you're obligated to if you get it, you're obligated to monitor his time because that cuts into studio time. if you're listening to this, Noah, we're watching you.
That motherfucker produces like no one I have ever.
Yeah, the workflow is absurd.
Unfucking. I've never met anyone like him where he can be like, yeah, I'll get a track done in 4 hours.
And then it's 6 tracks. Done. I expect the turnaround time for 1 track. I think he's going to come back with 1, and he's like, here's 6 more.
It is unbelievable. He's like, he just knows. And I mean, I attribute it to his background in music, because he does have a background out,
his parents,
outside.
Right?
Yeah, his parents. And, but also, like, I mean, he's been in the fucking industry for 2 decades now. So it's like, and, you know, this is something else I mentioned, and I actually mentioned this in the episode I did with, my buddy I was mentioning, Rip Kenny, who did his Escapism album. I did a podcast with him and two of his other podcast mates. Shout out to Tesco and wow, why am I Luke Rain? Jesus, I'm so sorry, Luke. I can't believe I just I stumbled on that. I'm 2 White Claws or a White Claw deep and 2 shots deep. So I'm so sorry, Luke. But Luke Rain Music, they do a podcast called the Human Music Podcast. Fantastic podcast. And on the episode we did for Electronic Dance Money, we were chatting about that as well. And his 20 years in the industry is what it takes. You kind of just have to be in it for that long. Like,
yeah, don't expect the worst. You're going to shoot yourself in the foot, and from a mental standpoint, which is probably is a top factor of all of this entirely. It's a generally toxic and laborsome mentally industry to operate in, and to beat yourself up for not to hold yourself to a standard of what some of these guys have been doing it for decades or operating at is doing yourself a disservice.
Minimum 10 years is what I tell everyone. Yeah. You have to give this shit your all for a minimum of 10 years. After that 10 years, maybe you can slow it down a bit because, it's unrealistic to tell a kid that's 25, hey, you have to put the pedal to the metal for 10 years if they have other aspirations. Like, some people want to have a wife, they want to have a kid. So around that 30-year mark is usually when that happens. And it's unrealistic to tell someone that's 25, you have to fucking go guns blazing for 10 years minimum for you to have a successful career. And, that may not align with some of your other aspirations, and that's okay. But
being realistic with yourself and laying that out from the jump is incredibly important.
It's what sets you up for success. Mm-hmm. And as long as you have your foot in the industry for at least 10 years and you're relatively active.
It goes in waves too.
Yes, there is waves. That's actually a really good point that you bring up that I think people should know is that there's ebbs and flows. For me, great case in point right now is, I started off writing music around 2012, 2013. I started DJing in like 2011, 2012. And I, up until about 2017, that's all I wanted to do was write music, tour, play shows. Ignored all the shit we talk about on this podcast, which is marketing and branding and advertising and all that shit.
Usually it's not uniquely you.
It's not. That's why you're probably listening to this, because it's not unique. So, I ignored all that stuff and I got burnt out in the studio. I was upset when I didn't go into the studio and I didn't write a hit, and that drain and I was in the studio every day for at least 2-3 hours. I was sitting there just hitting a key and nothing would happen. And I was like fucking losing my mind. And I had to take a step back. And that's why I used to hate mixing. Then I found out how to mix properly through Il Gates and the Producer Dojo. So shout out to them and thank you.
Oh,
yeah. And after that, I was like, you know what? I do better when I collaborate with people. Let me make a fucking post on Reddit and see if people would let me mix their music and teach them how to mix, because I feel like I've gotten to that point where I can teach people. And that started my love for mixing and wanting to help others. And I started Envious Audio around that time. And I was like, I'm going to take a step away from the production stuff. If I can get the studio going and making money, production's always there. I can quit my job at some point and I can go full time.
You're going for the full one-stop shop ultimately, and where you somewhat to some degree uniquely the EDM sphere of things, but there's so many facets. And even with the artist project, if you're experiencing burnout in the studio, take a pause and work on your branding.
Yeah.
Ultimately, as when I first walked in, we spoke about, that is the majority of it to some degree now as well. So there are plenty of when you're experiencing burnout, never feel guilty or ashamed that is happening, because there's 5 other things that you need to be working on for your project. Don't worry, you can stay busy. Doing something else, and that's okay, and you'll be better for it.
Exactly, and that was, I realized that while I started that business, and because everything I was learning in business to run my audio, I was like, this is the shit that producers should be doing. But I don't see a lot of people talking about that, and that's why I started the podcast. And now I've come to a point in my life where I'm like, because I was writing tracks still throughout the time that I've been building my business, but not as consistently as before. But every track I put it on the back burner. I was like, if I feel the itch to write, I'll go write. And every time I did that, I wrote the best thing I've ever written. So I let the creativity slow, it was waves.
Yep.
It was constant waves, like you were saying. And that's the point that I'm making is I've gotten to a point where I've been consistently writing a lot of good tracks, and I started this new artist project. I think Paxton might have mentioned to you Lush Puppy. That we're fucking around with. Yeah. So I got to a point where I'm like
eager to hear some of it.
I'm happy. I'll show you some stuff that I've been working on. But yeah, I got to a point where I'm like, I'm connected. Noah can help me. Noah's offered without even having to ask. I'll send this to this label, that label. And I'm like, holy fuck. If you think it should go there, then I'm on to something. Paxton wants to work with me, and he's the best content guy ever. Paxton is the fucking man. He doesn't think he is, but he is the fucking best dude I have ever met in Austin thus far, aside from Noah, probably aside from you as well, Justin. But, I've gotten to a point where, I have those connections. I built the marketing portfolio that I need. I know how to advertise. I know how to do all of these things I didn't know before. And I've gotten to a point where I'm like, this could fucking be a thing again. I can go back to the original dream and see what I can do with that. And to talk about your point about like, it's ebbs and flows. There's waves. It could be a 3-year fucking wave. If you can accept that and appreciate that and kind of lean into it a bit, your life is going to be that much better. Your appreciation for music is going to be that much better. And when you come out of it on the long run, you're probably going to understand things better. Your thought process is going to be different, and you're going to be able to make the big leaps that you originally wanted to. When you're in the studio and you're trying to grind it out and you're like, fuck this, I can't come up with anything good. That's okay. If you need to take a step back and either work on your branding or fucking start a completely different business, it doesn't matter. None of that's a waste of time. It's all just a learning process, and you're going to be able to apply certain things to your original idea later on and do it that much fucking better. And that was probably the biggest learning experience I had, was being able to tell myself it's okay if I'm not in the studio 24/7. It's okay if I can't come up with ideas. It's what am I going to do with that extra time then to improve myself? And then eventually, who knows if eventually I get back to it, but how am I going to better myself as a person? How am I going to appreciate the things that I have and be able to dive into another passion that I love? And I found that. And I think if you're at that point where, you come to that boiling point where you're like, this is too much right now, you got to be able to tell yourself to take a step back. Because if you can't,
we're talking about professional and business skills. Because ultimately, as we've gone back to, marketing and branding is such a big component of it. But these same skills and being able to not get to a point where you're ready to pull your hair out are skills that are going to migrate to every professional aspect of your life, and ultimately is branding, marketing, and the full package are become more and more important to have a successful EDM project. The things that I look for and that I bring a lot of value to in developing clients are these same skills that bleed into just how I am in my personal life and professional life. And hopefully things that, regardless of where these projects go, are things that will be applied to every professional, every side hustle, everything, and just make people all over better.
Well, there's two things to talk about there too, is the fact that like the skills that you learn, especially when you're dealing with clients, there's an interpersonal skill that you have to develop and learn in a way that you have to talk to people in a respectful and appropriate manner that goes right into your personal life. Like you might have a partner that the way I've dealt with my clients, I've learned from, because I don't want to disrespect my clients. I don't want to make them upset, because what's that going to do? Well, I'm going to lose them as a client, and they could potentially be out there in the ether talking shit about me. And whether or not that is granted, we could go down that road, but it doesn't matter. The point is like I've taken skills that I've managed through dealing with clients, and I've been able to apply that to, working out issues that I have with my fiance. And so like, that's a real skill that has gone into my personal life that has made my personal life better. It's made me a better person. I'm able to deal with more difficult situations in a better manner than I otherwise would have. So it's like, you know,
I try to act like, I in dealing with clients, like I have the answer for everything, and I'm the master on how to deal with these situations. But there's a striking amount of times where I reflect and like, I'm not really practicing what I preach.
Yeah.
How about I become a better person? Hold on a second, I'm leveling up.
Exactly. You're totally fucking right, dude. You're totally right. There are moments where you're like, I'm saying this thing, but I'm not doing it. Yeah. And if I'm saying it, I should really fucking be doing it. And this is actually part of the reason why I wanted to start this artist project, is because, I've talked all this shit on this podcast for fucking 3 years now about what producers should do. And part of me has me reflecting where it's like, well, I know I have the right answers. And the reason why I know I have the right answers is because if you take any of the principles I talk about and put it into any other business, that business will be relatively, if not completely, it's a framework. It will be successful if you make the right moves and all that. Also, I've had people on this podcast who have been in the industry far longer than I have been way more successful than me. And they have been like, yeah, you're 100% right. Mm-hmm. So those two things confirmed it. But the third thing that's missing is the fact that I haven't done it myself. And so part of why I'm starting this Lush Puppy project with Paxton is it's kind of like, well, I got to put my fucking money where my mouth is, and I got to do it. And
be better for it.
Exactly. And I would not be wanting to start this project and have so much faith in the project if I didn't know what I know now, which is just an unbelievable amount of knowledge.
Yeah, you lucked out with this podcast. You got a treasure. You've just been absorbing a sponge mode.
Yeah, from everyone that I've talked to, it's put, the business itself has pushed me to want to take courses that I never thought I tell my fucking fiance all the time. I'm like, if you would have told me in high school I'd be running a business, I'd be like, you're out of your fucking mind. I never want to do that.
They're going to let me do what?
Yeah, but here I am where I'm like, I love it. There's no other space that I want to be, but yeah, it's a part of the fucking ride, and you gotta enjoy the journey. Let's dive more into Veridian, because I know we went on a huge long tangent there, but it's great. No, this is great. I fucking love it. So let's talk a little bit more about management, because there's so many artists, and I've gotten emails about it. How do I get a manager? And that actually
I got one today from the UK, and I'm it's just like, you think that sometimes it blows my mind, and it's flattering. But there are tons of people that are. It's a highly sought after realm of this thing, as it should be.
Yeah, and I get. I had one person in particularly reach out to me via email, and they said, "Hey, how do I get a manager? What does that look like?" And that actually sparked an idea in my head. And I've been waiting for probably fucking almost a year and a half to actually get a manager. So that's why I'm so excited to have you. It's taken forever to find a good manager that I really want, because I've seen the growth of your business from Paxton, because I met Paxton in 2020, January of 2020. So this was before you had even started Veridian. And I've been good friends with him since that. And so he has seen the growth of Veridian from the day.
I vouch for him immensely. I called him Saturday.
I was at the fucking Stars game.
Were you at the hockey game with him?
I took him to the hockey game.
Just knowing Paxton, I have to tell him 5 times, like, you have to tell me that this is what you want to do, and don't feel obligated to do this, because that's how he operates. Dude. Like, listen, man, like, I am too nice to feel bad about you leaving this game. Can you please tell me that this is something you want to do? He's at Emo's an hour later. I got there after him, and he's sweating bullets, running around all over the place. He made 50 laps around here, crushing it as always. It's just like, that's my guy.
That motherfucker. You know what he says to me? Because he answered your call and goes, "Oh, okay, it's for the trees." Okay, that's their name, right?
Of the trees.
Of the trees. He's like, "That's it. Okay, yeah. I could probably do it. It'll take me an hour." I'm listening. I'm like, this motherfucker is gonna go do a fucking job right now.
I stole your buddy there.
Well, no. So he stayed to the end of the game. The game ended around like 9. We left around like 9:50. It was a blowout. Yeah, it was a fucking. the Texas Stars beat the Chicago Wolves. Like
Okay.
when we left,
Those
it was
games are fun.
5-1. It was so much fun.
Nice.
I think that was his first Texas
Invite me
Stars
next
game.
time. I'd love to go with you guys.
Dude, of course. Yeah. But my buddy Mike, he has season tickets, and so I usually go with him. I was originally gonna get his second seat, but then we found out we were buying this house like 3 days after I started paying for my season tickets. And
Nice.
I was like, I can't go. I bought a house. I can't go. But so yeah, he's like, man, Justin hit me up. Like, should I go do this show? And I was like, dude, you didn't plan this. You've earned your right. Like, relax. It's a Saturday night.
Trust me. That's what Justin tells me every time.
I believe it. I 100% believe it. But I know I know how he works. And I was like, don't do it really. He's like, you're right. Yeah, you're right. I was like, Justin will understand, dude. Like, he's a sports fan. You're at a game. He fucking gets it. And he's like, yeah, you're right. You're right. Okay, I'm not going to go do it. And then we leave the game. And then he literally texted, I think he texted me today. He's like, yeah, so like I went and shot the show. And I was like,
you already knew.
I already knew.
In all fairness to Justin, they I would have given him a far more reasonable, or in fairness to myself, to make myself not look like quite so much of an asshole. I would have given him more of a heads up. But I was at a pregame for Of the Trees, and I got a call. It was like, Of the Trees needs coverage. We need Pax. So I laid up the opportunity, but in Paxton and I's typical dealings, when I'm in control of it, he certainly has an adequate amount of time to make those decisions.
Yes,
I understand how it is.
I can't tell you how much he appreciates you and loves you. Honestly,
reciprocated.
He's told me the same. I assume that you feel the same way as him, but he holds you at such a high fucking regard, and you're the one guy in the industry that he's talked about, because he's worked in the metal scene before. He's worked in many different scenes, and he said you're the one person that he's met outside of everyone that has stayed true to who you are. You're not an asshole. You don't have a crazy ego about yourself, and he holds you in such a high regard, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on, because it's hard to, it's like we were talking about at the beginning, it's hard to find those individuals that are that caring about wanting to help others and will help lift people up that are just starting or don't really have any direction, which is, partially why I respect Veridian, because you really the amount of local talent that you guys are pulling and pushing for is fucking fantastic.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about that. What does it look like to work with smaller local artists? What's that process like when you're trying to book them shows? And what are some key factors that you're looking at when you're trying to either pull in some new talent to be a part of the team, or when you're dealing with talent within your current team?
Sure, yeah. I'm gonna throw it back to, just because previously we talked about karma and integrity, and I think that is a value that has been a big part of my life for my entire life, and I do think that to any degree, you don't know the impact you're going to make on someone's life, and it will come back around. But being accessible, and I will always continue to do that. And I think being able to talk to anybody, and I will always answer whoever needs that support. And ultimately, I think that the long term, that's what helps you win. People want to see someone that wins. That's a real person and is accessible, and is looking out for everybody, and I will always do that. So someone please slap me if they see me do otherwise, because that's a huge part of everything I do in my life. So, but as far as what it looks like on my level of management, it's starting to accelerate a little bit. I'm taking on trying to scale up. We actually just finished roster cuts and new roster additions for 2023, which is a difficult time for me, particularly with parting ways with projects, because I'm operating on such a regional level. Most of these people are real friends of mine, people that I see on a weekly basis, people that mean quite a bit to me. But it's meaningful as well as I part ways with some of these projects. I've never had ex-client have any animosity towards me, which to me shows that I'm doing things the right way. As far as what I'm looking for, remind me your
Yeah,
hit me
like
back
when
with the.
you if you're trying to pull in new talent,
Mhm,
let's just start with that. When you're trying to pull in new talent,
mhm.
what explicitly are you looking for? Because I had like I said, I had an email from someone that was like, "Hey, I think I should get a manager, or I think I want it."
The most important question isn't if you want a manager, it's if
It's
you're ready for a manager,
in
if you need it, because ultimately you're giving up equity on your project to do
yes,
that.
yes,
There's often times where I'm you're not you don't it's not that it's I see that you have the drive to want a manager and you want to take the project there, but I would feel bad taking money from you if I'm not being able to give you the value back for that. So there are certain like baselines that ultimately as an early project you want to front load everything as far as visuals, branding. You want to have a complete package that's going to carry you through at least a year. You need the framework for all this stuff. But as far as like music wise, I need my kind of baseline is to see a ID vault or a whip a comprehensive whip list of tracks that are ready to be pitched to demos or pitched to labels or ready to come out with a volume of like 10 to 15. That's what I'd like to see at this point. Um, Ultimately all goes back to like we want to be before anything moves forward on a management front, we need to be confident that this project is at a place where it could be self-sustaining with where it's at for a year of operating. And that goes to the branding, that goes to the marketing, that goes to the volume of tracks that are ready to go, goes to the workflow of how long is it taking you to bust out a track. Comprehensively, what do all those things look like? What are your goals for your project? What is your work life and recreational balance? Are your parents, is your family supportive of this? What is your dynamic? Is this a healthy thing for you to be pursuing? Are you in a good mental place to commit time to this? Are you getting pushback for doing this? And, particularly for these young projects that I primarily deal with, it becomes a way bigger factor of how healthy is your lifestyle. Am I going to be? I've had clients where I'm picking them up on the side of the curb that they got thrown out of a club because they got piss ass drunk and jumped in a pool naked, that type of shit. So it's like, where are you at? How serious are you about this? And what steps have you taken, and what all is in place to make this something that a lot of the legwork has been done and really just needs the polishing of management and the guidance of management to get it through. Because ultimately, if I have a year's worth of branding and tracks and those types of things are in place, then I can make it sustainable for the sequential years. But if there is no effort or backlog of some of this content to sustain for a year, that's really the goal for me, for myself and our staff. I have a 5-person staff with all other assistant managers, but we take a look at a project comprehensively when it's brought to us, and could this, with where it's at right now, with a little bit of polish, be a sustainable project for a year. Um, because ultimately we can that's a trajectory. We can make that a routine thing and polish it up and add to it and develop it. But if there's really no framework to be to have longevity at least for a year based on what is there, then that person would be doing themselves a disservice to financially pay a manager to uh, you know uh, the year mark is what
yeah.
that's kind of the time frame that we look at what all is there.
Dude, that was such a pot of gold you just dropped on people. Because here's the thing, a lot of what people are looking for the answers. When someone's asking, I think I want to get a manager. Usually they have no idea what's involved with the manager, which, we'll get into that in just a second. But like most people don't realize what they have to do to get a good manager. Let's talk about, if
Sure.
if a manager isn't requesting the things that you're talking about, they're probably not all that good at
Yeah.
a bare minimum,
Yep.
because people who can spout off what you just did, and it was great fucking knowledge, dude. That's the kind of shit that people need to understand and realize. is that these are the benchmarks. Here's your benchmarks.
Mhm.
Work to that. If you can work to that, then yeah, you're on the right path and you probably have the dedication that you need. Anyone can sit here and say, "Well, I do have the dedication. I just need people to support me." It's like, well,
Mm.
but do you have the work to show for it? Do
Right,
you like
right.
what are
Ultimately, you don't need if you can go on Fiverr and get, the graphics and the branding stuff. You don't give a manager 20% equity of what you're doing. When those same things, that baseline benchmark can be accomplished with freelance, hitting
yeah.
up freelance people. You can get those same baseline resources and get everything in place to make yourself much more marketable and, easier pitch to management. You'll know when you're there, when you're comfortable with, like, this is like, I have it all laid out. This is a comprehensive project that I can sell to somebody with confidence. And I'm not going to be there tomorrow stressing about shit that I need to do within the same year. Having a complete package, and again, like, you're going to save yourself. You're not going to give up part of what your passion project is by getting freelancers and stuff. Do all that. Do all that yourself and with the guidance of friends and connections through the industry. But before you commit to somebody taking equity and ownership of your project, oftentimes people just jump the gun on that. There's a lot more that you can set in place, just yourself, very easily, with very
Mhm.
accessible resources, to where you haven't given up part of what you're working on when you don't need to yet.
Yeah, yeah. I think you nailed that perfectly. What does your day-to-day look like when you're dealing with artists? I mean, we could maybe even point to like someone like Noah, because you know, Noah's a different breed. He's a he should be way more successful than he is.
Mm.
And I think he's going to be very, very successful. But what does it look like what's the day-to-day look like when you're managing someone like Noah? What are your tasks to either keep him on track or book him shows? What does that look like?
Yeah, well, Noah makes it extremely easy. He's actually not my most labor intensive client, just because he's been doing this so long that he makes it quite easy. The main thing for Noah right now is shopping labels, which is and to any producers listening to this is a very difficult time, both seasonally and just in this period of time generally in the industry. But labels are a bit of a crapshoot right now. But he's just sitting on so much content, and a lot of it is just emailing labels, sending out demos, and trying to get his tunes locked in. I'm incredibly advantaged by being a promoter, that I get to book him for pretty much any show in Central Texas that he wants to play. So that comes very easily to me. I have to send a lot less emails than I normally would to promoters in Texas or whatever state a manager might be operating in, to try to get him gigs. But it's basically just frequent follow-ups, calls, texts, pinning down what content looks like for the week, what labels we're shopping, what shows we're booking out. I think that is challenging for Noah's project in particular, because he has wife and kids, he has
Mhm.
a life and a career, um, and generating content, and this partially comes from I'm not going to age him right now, but being the branding is such a huge thing, but being active on TikTok and generating these brands and across platforms that just keep sprouting up, is incredibly important for him. So that's a big initiative for us to get him in a consistent schedule, where he's engaging with his fans as much as he can, and finding new ways to um, be the dubstep dad, and take on that flair. That's the goal with him, and that's what we're more predominantly working on.
How do you deal with a I maybe difficult isn't the right word, but let's say you've taken on an artist that you thought was a good bet to make, and they're starting to not be that. Maybe it's through workflow, right? You're not noticing, oh, well, they're not putting out enough tracks. They're just not doing the work that they need to do. What are you doing to try to manage that and deal with that? How do you approach either trying to encourage them, or are there any suggestions that you may make to be like, hey, you should try this to, get the workflow, tighten it up a bit, and start writing more?
Yeah, I think it's a healthy combination we have a very sophisticated backend structure where all of this can be laid out in production and release schedules and social media schedules. But I have a generally pretty lax take it as you want approach to that, and how much my clients utilize that differs from client to client. Um, um, but I to some degree I also operate on a reciprocated effort spectrum until I become concerned. Like what you give me is what you'll get back, and that creates an expectation that it's both parties are responsible. I have clients that are like, oh well, this isn't happening for me, and I'm like, well, what have you sent me this week? What have what are we working on right now? And they're like, "Well, yeah, I should have sent you this the other day." Well, yeah, 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 you should have. Just send it to me now, and we'll get to it.
Yeah.
But it differs from client to client, and ultimately, being a mentor and being someone that's easy to talk to and being a friend, helps me lay out those expectations and responsibilities in a way that is easily received, and ultimately helps clients realize that, I know I should have been doing this. So it kind of lights a fire on their ass in a very eloquent and relaxed way. That's like, yeah, we've talked about this a ton of times. This is what I should have been doing, but I'm not upset with them because you're so damn nice about it. um, but it's a combination of that. You give them the resources, same as when you're a kid growing up getting into music. You lay out all the resources. Ultimately, they all have their client folder that they can revert to that has all the documents in place for them to. They have their deadlines or supposed their planned deadlines. That this is where things should be if we're operating at the volume and the effort that we want to be operating at. These are all the things I should be doing. It's all there for me, written out, and there's a verbal reminder if you need it, and if you approach me and say that, why isn't this happening, where is this, um please revert back to your client folder, but also let's talk about it right now. And
Mhm.
it's a two faceted. It's a I'm your mentor and I'm here for you. Let's talk about it and let's figure out why it's not happening or why it is happening. But ultimately, here it is on paper as well, and this is what we should be doing.
How many second chances are you giving artists?
It depends entirely on the situation. I had a client not too long ago that went out to Denver to play at Cervantes, and got wasted, and was saying some really derogatory things to the local DJs playing before him, and that's an unexcusable immediate dropping situation for me. As soon as he took my call back, that was a wrap. Ultimately, I'm a reflection on these guys.
Right.
It goes two ways, and for in order to give my clients the best opportunities in any city, any state, that reputation goes a long way. And I'll be damned if somebody acts inappropriately or disrespectful or
Yeah.
anything sexual related, anything like that. That is inexcusable. One and done.
Yeah.
If it's far as not meeting a deadline or something like that, much more flexible. But
Right.
ultimately, you weigh in how detrimental it is to the project and the person, and to the and myself, and all encompassing. How much damage has been done here, and what facet is it? Deadlines much more, and ultimately in anything you do professionally, and what I have let go of staff for the same reason. Does it become a habit?
Mhm.
I'd much rather someone mess up but take the initiative to do something they think that they were, I know I should do this and I feel confident about it. Yeah, do it. If you mess up, that's okay. You felt, yeah, explore what that's a learning experience. But uh just repetitive, habitual fuck ups that are like, something that just makes you question your character. I guess that's ultimately what it boils down to. You get a lot more chances with me if it's a mistake about how you operated, business or how you produced music, but if it comes down to making me question your character or where you lie, where your morals are at, then there's really no second chance.
Yeah,
Three chances for music related stuff. For being a good human, one chance.
Yeah. That's a really, I like that fucking response. Yeah. By the way, if you need another one, just go and dive right into that cooler. But this brings up a really good fucking point that I've been making for probably. I get on these kicks. You could actually listen to the podcast and hear like these, again, like we were talking about earlier, ebbs and flows and waves of like different topics or ideas, and either my style of interviewing or just my style of episode topics. And probably for the last, I think maybe 5 or 6 episodes, I've been on a really big kick about discipline. And I think this is because I'm going through a really big phase through myself right now where I'm, I would like to argue that I've been a very disciplined person, and
seem that way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I grew up wrestling, which is where I argue my entire mentality and discipline came from, is through wrestling. I wrestled for like 8 years or so.
I was a black belt when I was 14, so I attribute some of that to,
yeah. I started jujitsu too back in at the end of 2020.
You're doing that right now?
Yeah,
that's amazing. Holy shit,
so much fun. I fucking love it. It's one of my passions.
If I did martial arts again, that's what I would.
Dude, you should if you ever want to. Where are you living right now?
Brody and William Cannon, South.
Oh, dude, no shit.
Yeah, come
to fucking Paragon. Do you know where Paragon is?
No.
It's right next to that Plant Fitness off of William Cannon in Westgate.
Okay, yeah,
dude.
Yeah.
I'm fucking go with me one day, and I'll be your training partner. You get I think it's a 1 week trial that you can get, dude. It is so much fun. It is the best. It's when jujitsu is the one thing right now that I need to go do at least on a weekly basis. It's the one thing that I can
exercise, meditation, it crosses it off.
Dude, well, I should show you. I just set up an ice bath in my backyard, and I need to, it's not fully done, but I'm getting a pump installed in the next week. And then once, cause it's cooling down, I don't need to get a chiller, but I'm going to install a chiller on it. Nice. So during the summer months, when it's fucking 95 out, I can drop it down to 30 degrees. Nice. Well, like probably around 40. And do ice baths, and that's where I do a lot of my meditation stuff.
I'm glad I hit the podcast before that was built into it.
When I'm fucking recording from the ice bath, just chilling. We're doing an ice bath episode today.
I'm Justin.
But yeah, no, like jujitsu is one of the things that I can go do, that complete meditative state. That like I don't think about anything else other than whatever it is that I'm fucking doing during sparring or drilling. And it is so if you're interested, dude, come out with me and we'll go fucking train. It is such a fucking blast. You're right there too. I mean,
yeah, I would love to add it to the text list of the recap list.
Yeah.
I've had so many ex-girlfriends that have
gotten you into trouble.
Well, that too. But a commonality is always, how are you not? My ability to be cool as a cucumber in most situations, pisses off a lot of women in my life. How are you not? I just want you to be pissed off right now.
Why are you getting upset? Yeah, why are you getting as upset as I am right now? That's probably the opposite. Realistically, dude, Marty is like she keeps her fucking
She's
cool a lot.
Yeah.
I can get very hot-headed at times. Yeah. I'm like, not even like, it's more situational. Like I was literally yesterday, I was trying to put my DJ controller away into my closet and I couldn't get it in. I was like, what the fuck is going on? Why the fuck isn't this?
It's caveman mode.
Caveman mode. Caveman, dude, that is genius. Dude, trademark that. That is hilarious. Caveman mode is exactly where I went, where I was like, what the fuck? But jujitsu's like that thing that I can go do that, like, any stress that I've had, if I'm feeling very stressed, I'm like, I need to go to jujitsu.
I should live there.
I got to go there. And when I go, like, that's the time. And actually, funny enough, if you want to get superstitious, anytime that I have gone to jujitsu where Marty has not told me have a good time, I've had a terrible time. I'm not even kidding you. The other night, and
Have you told her? She needs to know.
I told her that, and so she tells it to me every time. And I had, in the first time in months, if not a year, I went to jujitsu while she was gone. And so she didn't say that to me. And I had a horrible I came home and I was like, I just got my ass. Now, I always go in expecting to get my ass kicked, but I got my ass kicked particularly hard that day. And I just came home and then shit wasn't going my way.
How dare you now? This is your fault. This is your fault.
No, I would never say that. I would never say that, but yes, it was still like a fuck all this shit. She'd ask me something, and I'd be like, I don't fucking know. Like, I'm just like fucking miserable. But, you know, speaking to the discipline thing that I've been really going through over the past few months, I've realized, I preach a lot about the things I talk about, and I assume and I think that I have really good discipline, but I think my discipline has lacked severely, probably within the last probably within the last year, and then before that it was probably around 2018, it was probably 2 or 3 years before that. So it's kind of like, ebbs and flows, waves.
Every part of your life will be. Recognizing that is the most important thing.
Yeah, and I don't think I wasn't the same fucking person. I'm 26, about to be 27, and before I started this business, I was going through a rough time with production, and I was 22, 21, and I just didn't, my frontal cortex was not developed. I wasn't thinking the right way, and I didn't have the same thought process as I do now. And so now that I'm like kind of, I feel like I'm a fuller person. I am more of who I am meant to be, and I can understand my mistakes in the past.
Statistically, you are entirely.
Yes, you're right. And so discipline has become a deeper part of my life. Like, I'm waking up an hour earlier each day to just get in and start working on little minute stuff for music, like building loops and working on samples and working on sound design. And that helps. I've noticed that alone, starting
the same
something,
thing, not overloading yourself. Like, start small. And
well, exactly. And I've already noticed like a distinct difference in my production style because I have these original things that I'm working with and that are so much more fun to work with. But then also it starts the day off so much better when I get to work on something creative and fun. And then when I started building this ice bath, I was like, well, I need to wake up earlier. So I'm like, now I'm waking up at like close to 6:30 to start the ice bath, start working on music, and then I start like my actual day job around like 8:30. So like I'm almost
that's a good routine.
Yeah, and I'm like, it has done my mood doing the ice bath has increased. Like my productivity and mood has increased so much more, but then also starting something creative and fun before I actually do the grind it just improves everything even more. So I'm like, I'm almost addicted to this. Well, when my alarm hits fucking 6:30, 6:45, get the fuck up because it's going to suck for the first 10 minutes. But once you get over that hump,
the rest of your day is going to be so much better. It is
going to be so good. You're going to have a good day, even shit that might not go your way, you're going to breeze off so much easier. And I've noticed a distinct difference in that sort of stuff. And it gets even better when I go work out at the gym or I go jujitsu. So that discipline is
huge.
It's fucking everything.
That's why I still have a day job, a 9 to 5. There's so many of my peers operating in the music industry that are waking up at 4 p.m. and going through the motions with it, and they're like,
so many producers do that, and DJs.
Full it covers the gamut. The majority of people operating in the music industry, from artists to promoters to agents, whatever it might be, are in a very toxic routine, wondering why they're so unhappy. And I'm the subject. The reason why I still have a 9 to 5, and granted, it's a good situation for me, but I am very susceptible to the same routine. I cannot let myself. It's important for me because I know that I'm the type of person that will get swept away into it and be
Yeah.
the guy waking up at 4 p.m. pissed off, wondering where my day went, and I'm not willing to let myself do that. So
Yeah, the discipline too to be able to. Here's the thing, like I think everyone should have fun, especially artists. Like when you've worked so hard to get to a certain goal and you're either supporting certain acts or you are headlining shows, like you do, in my opinion, you have the right, you earned the right to have some fun.
absolutely.
The issue is when they start the fun before their job has even started. And realistically, your job is there to entertain thousands of other people that are going to buy a shit ton of drinks at the bar. They're going to sell tickets, all that stuff. So, um, ideally, like, save your fun, have the discipline to get through your shit and have fun afterwards.
Yep.
But even afterwards, have some fucking discipline to not go too far.
Because you'll backtrack the entire way from all what you just proved on stage.
Yep.
You're that asshole blackout at the bar afterwards. You're right back. You're worse than before you got on that stage.
100%. And you have, again, like what we were talking about, like you never know who you're gonna meet, who you're gonna put on for a show that ends up being on fucking Wild Now and big on TikTok. Like you never know who you may meet in the crowd that might realize they get a deeper look into you when you've been fucking drinking and you're letting some shit spew out, and you never know who the fuck you're talking to. And years later, when you need something from them, they're going to remember that first interaction. So there is there's a big fucking point to that discipline, like having the wherewithal and discipline of just have your shit together. Like know that I need to get a track done this week, so I probably, when I'm done with my show at 1 a.m, I should probably at least just go home and go to bed. So I can wake up at 10 a.m. and start working. Like
you'll feel way better too if you get your shit done. Departing and stuff, it feels a lot fucking better if you know that you've gotten, at least in my experience, if you know you've gotten your shit done. And shout out once again to my dad, but that's like his motto. Dude, growing up with me, and I partied a lot in high school and stuff, but he was like, but I also got straight A's. He was like, if you have your, I don't care what you do, man, but if I care a lot what you do, if you haven't done the shit you're supposed to do first, take care of business, take care of what you're supposed to do, and then enjoy yourself. And that is fine. Do things in moderation. Don't get carried away, but you have the fucking right to have some fun if you have crushed everything that you were supposed to do that day. And that is true for art. That's absolutely true for artists. Anybody, any professional.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And I do think hard work is important, but hard work has been like crammed down the fucking throats of people, with Gary V and just anyone. Grant Cardone. I'm not a big fan of Grant Cardone. I do respect Gary V and I like him, but you gotta fucking grind daily. I push back against that because I
need balance.
Yeah, there's big balance. Like you really do need balance. And I've actually noticed with Gary V, he's toned back more on the grind and more has pushed more for the balance lifestyle. What makes you happy? Do that sort of thing. And
it's all balancing act in anybody's life.
Yeah, and I resist the urge to say you have to work hard because I don't think that's what it is. I think it's the discipline to do the work that you need to do. And maybe I'm just
most people know. Most people are aware of what they should be doing and what they need to do to get where they want to be.
Yeah. Yeah, and
that's where management comes in. It's like, I'm going to hold you to. We both know where you want to be. We both know what you need to do to get there. Management's going to give you a hard time when you haven't hit this deadline, and there you are wasted on 6th Street.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So it's and maybe I am playing semantics when I'm saying, oh, you work hard, discipline, but I think discipline is better because, in my opinion, I guess you do work hard in a relationship to maintain a healthy one, but I think you can work hard for a week and not do anything after that, and you no longer work hard. Discipline is like a lifestyle. Like to be disciplined means that you're someone to trust on, or you're someone to trust. You can rely on that person, and that they are every time, even if they don't need to work hard, they're going to do what they need to do. So, like, I think discipline is the better word to use, and I think a lot more people need to be more disciplined, whether that's, not getting fucked up at every show they go to or every party they go to, or if it's just wake up extra early so you can work on sound design. Like, there's little things you can do. Doesn't mean that you have to do all in one. It doesn't mean, starting on Monday, you have to not get fucked up at every show, wake up early to do sound design, finish a track every single. You don't need to do all of that in one, but adding little small things that improve your lifestyle and what you're doing over time, as well as, turning things into a better, healthier habit. That's what makes the big difference where, in 2 years, where you're going to be at
trajectory skyrocket.
It's and a lot of people have a really difficult time taking those things in bite-sized pieces where it's people, and I'm preaching to the fucking choir when I was younger. Like, I wanted to, every time I wrote a fucking track in the studio when I was 2 years in to writing music, I wanted it to be a hit. That's not realistic.
I need 10 more before we're even pitching them.
Yeah. Yeah. You really got to like take a step back, slow the fuck down, and just take things in bite-sized pieces. But
not beat yourself up.
Yeah, not fucking beat yourself up. I think that might be it, man. You got anything else you wanted to?
No, this has been amazing, man. This has been great.
I think we've been hitting it for like 2 hours now.
Really? Holy shit.
Let me see. What time is it? Close to 2 hours, hour and a half or so.
All right.
Yeah, it goes quick when you're fucking.
It does, yeah.
When you're in a good grind and in a good motion. I'm trying to think of anything else that I may have had questions on, but I mean, your first fucking answer when I was like, with the management, like, what are you looking for, dude? That is a golden piece nugget. I'm definitely gonna snip that out to put it as a little preview. But yeah. Do you have anything to plug? Anything you wanted to mention?
No, I'm just, I had never envisioned this being the trajectory of my life, really. And moving to Austin, not knowing a single person, has just been being adopted by this community. And, ultimately, I'll say it, in such a toxic environment where people are so shallow, being a person that has integrity and is accessible and is looking out for the little guy. Be a good person and work hard, and people want to see you win, and I stand by that. And I believe in long-term outcomes. So just because you sacrifice 5 minutes or, inconvenience yourself or whatever it might be, don't think because you're not getting immediate satisfaction that it wasn't worth it for you. So continue to be a good person and, spread the goodness and look out for each other. And ultimately that is what is going to elevate the EDM community and everything that we're doing. So I hope everyone does that. I hope I will continue to do that. Please reach out to me if you need guidance at all, and I love you all.
Awesome. Dude, Justin, thank you so much. I'll have your socials up on the show notes. Do you want to shout out your socials real quick for Veridian or Kingdom?
There's too many. Mark my words. Prime Night Cult, Kingdom Nightclub, Veridian Management. Should be the same across all platforms. I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, hell yeah. I'll have all of what we discussed in this episode in the show notes for you guys to check out. Head to enviousaudio.com/episode 95. Thank you so much, Justin. Thank you. And I'll talk to you later, man. Take care.